Hello, my friends. Today we'll start with the fact that during a trilateral meeting between the United States, Ukraine, and Russia, the last unresolved issue regarding territories will be discussed. This was stated by President Zelenskyy.
Today, all of us spoke about it, yes. We are talking about the single most difficult issue that has not yet been resolved. And I believe that at the trilateral meetings we may be able to present different options to one another. This is all about the eastern part of our country. It's all about land. This is the issue that we have not yet resolved.
It has also been reported that at the trilateral meeting, in addition to territorial issues, the topic of an energy ceasefire will be raised. An energy ceasefire. The United States and Ukraine want to propose it to Russia tomorrow during the trilateral negotiations. Russia would stop striking energy infrastructure and Ukraine would refrain from attacking Russian oil refineries. This indicates that today and tomorrow truly key issues will be decided, and if the sides manage to find a compromise, the situation could improve. At the same time, Trump stated that Zelenskyy said he is ready for compromises. Zelenskyy agrees to sign the deal. He told me that yesterday, Trump said. However, for now, it's expected that Russia may carry out a series of new strikes. Russia has completed preparations for a new missile attack that could take place tonight. According to monitoring data, the following assets are currently ready for launch: 6 to 95 ms bombers, 3 to 160 bombers, 6 MiG-31K aircraft, 2 caliber missiles carriers in Novorossiysk, and 2 caliber missiles carriers in the Caspian Sea. The threat of a massive strike remains high. It is recommended not to ignore air raid alerts and to follow updates from air defense forces. And already tonight, a strike was carried out on the Sloviansk thermal power plant. At the same time, late last night, a meeting between Putin and Vitkov took place at the Kremlin. Putin held talks with Vitkov, Kushner, and Grunbaum at the Kremlin. The discussions lasted more than 3.5 hours. Putin's aide Yuri Ushakov described them as constructive and extremely candid. Russia confirmed that the first meeting of the Trilateral Security Working Group involving Russia, the United States, and Ukraine will take place on Friday in Abu Dhabi. According to Ushakov, the Russian delegation received specific instructions from Putin. Ushakov also added that without resolving the territorial issue, it's impossible to count on a long-term settlement. Russia will continue pursuing its goals by military means until a political and diplomatic resolution is achieved. However, for now, the war continues, so let's move on to the situation along the front line. We'll start with the Sumy direction. At the moment, the situation there remains relatively calm. For several days in a row, there has been no significant activity and the front line remains stable. In the Kharkiv direction, as of the time this video was recorded, the Russians are not carrying out any new shelling, and the situation there has stabilized for now. Along the front line, Russian forces are also not conducting any new attacks. In the area of Vovchansk, the Russians continue assault operations toward Izbitske and Kravske. The situation here is difficult, and the Russians are gradually managing to push forward. The gray zone is also expanding, but the Ukrainian forces are doing everything possible to prevent Russian troops from gaining a foothold in the villages. As a result, the front line has remained unchanged over the past 24 hours. Along the border, the Russians continue attempting to assault the village of Krugle, but they have so far failed to establish a foothold there as well, and the Ukrainian forces are destroying all their assault groups. In the direction of Velika Burluk, the Russians are trying to break through toward Kolodezne. However, activity here remains minimal, and it's possible that these attacks are being conducted only to pin down Ukrainian reserves and stretch forces along a wider section of the front. In the Kupiansk direction, the Russians are assaulting Petropavlivka, Peshane, and Kuralivka. However, they have been unable to advance further, and the Ukrainian forces are repelling all attacks. In the Borova direction, the Russians are attacking Boguslavka and Novosergiyevka. Over the past 24 hours, only a few attacks have been recorded, all of which were successfully repelled, and there have been no changes in this area. In the Lyman direction, the Russians are trying to entrench themselves in positions closer to the city. They are also assaulting Drobosheva and Novomykhailivka, but over the past 24 hours, there have been no new changes, although the situation remains difficult. In the Sloviansk direction, the Russians are attacking Dibrova and attempting to push past Dronivka. There is also heavy shelling in this area, but along the front line, Russia hasn't achieved any new successes so far. Ukrainian forces fighters describe the situation as follows. Sloviansk direction. A high intensity of Russian FPV drone activity has been recorded in the areas of Riznakivka and Mykolaiivka, east of Sloviansk. The Russians are deliberately striking logistics routes and trying to eliminate personnel, creating constant aerial pressure. As previously predicted, the Russians have expanded the zone of drone operations and are now actively operating southwest of Zakitne, in the area of the eastern channel of the Siversky Donets River. The further logic of their actions is an attempt to reach the old quarry and then entrench as a strong point in that area. This would give them a convenient position to control approaches and apply pressure on the flanks. That is why it's critically important for our units to firmly hold this direction, giving the Russians neither time nor space to establish themselves. In the Kostiantynivka direction, the Russians are assaulting Stupochki, the outskirts of Kostiantynivka and Plashiivka. They also attempting to break through in the area of Ivanopilla, but as before, Russia hasn't achieved any major successes here. They continue to push deeper toward the city, but the Ukrainian forces managed to eliminate them, so the front line remains unchanged. In the Dobropillia direction, the Russians are attacking Sofiivka, Ivanivka, and the town of Bilitska. The situation is difficult, but so far all attacks have been successfully repelled. In the Pokrovsk direction, the Russians are assaulting Rodinsk. Fighting is ongoing in Myrnograd, and on the western flank, the Russians are breaking through toward the village of Sergiyevka. This situation is difficult, but so far there are no major changes. Pokrovsk, Myrnograd. the defense of agglomeration under conditions of nearly 4 months of operational encirclement continues. There are not many of our defenders left in both cities. Mostly our assault groups are there carrying out specific missions. The main body of our troops is positioned outside the cities. Although the Russians have entered about 75 or 40% of Pokrovsk and Mirnograd, they are unable to advance further because our defenders managed to create a kill zone right inside the city. The Russians are largely bogged down in the southern parts of both cities, where they're also being worn down. If anyone manages to reach the north, they don't push any further. If this was part of our plan, it was executed poorly, especially during the first 2 stages. Now it's clear that the task is to lock the Russians inside the urban area and prevent them from breaking out. However, once again, many unnecessary losses were suffered by our forces during certain maneuvers. Attempts by the Russians to fully capture Rodinsk have so far amounted to nothing. But it is hell there, and that should not be forgotten. The same applies to Hryshine. What comes next? The fighting will continue until one side's operational reserves are exhausted. After that, either there will be a withdrawal on our side to a depth of 5 or 10 kilometers, or the start of real counteroffensive attempts. In the Novopavlivka direction, the Russians are attacking only Filia, and activity here is again minimal. No changes have been recorded over the past day. In the direction of the settlement of Pokrovsk in the Dnipropetrovsk region, the Russians are pushing through the area near Sosnivka and Shalin frontline territories. However, over the past day, there have been no changes, and the front line in this direction has stabilized. In the Huliaipole direction, the situation is more difficult. Activity here is very high, with up to 40 assaults per day. The Russians are attacking Nove Zaporizhzhia, breaking through near the villages of Solotka and Dobropillia, assaulting Priluki, and are also advancing toward Varvarivka and Svatopetrivka. Fighting on the outskirts of the city is ongoing as well. Heavy shelling continues, and all this intense activity indicates that this is effectively the main direction for Russian forces today. However, despite this, they have so far been unable to advance further, and for several days now the front line here has remained unchanged. In the Zaporizhzhia direction, things are completely quiet. The Russians are not carrying out any new assaults, with only shelling being reported. In the Kherson direction, attacks near the Antonivsky bridge continue, but over the past day there have been no changes and the front line remains stable. Meanwhile, Vance said that they want to develop trade and end all wars.
Now, you asked about Zelenskyy and Russia and Ukraine. Look, the president, he talks about this all the time. This has been the hardest war to solve. Of the 8 wars that the president has solved, he thought this would be the easiest. It's ended up being the hardest. The fact that they're sitting down and talking is progress. And I think we've made a lot of progress here. But look, you've got 2 people who really hate each other. The President of the United States' attitude is quite simple, and I happen to think that it's exactly right. Peace is what is in the best interest of the United States of America. We want commerce between those 2 countries. We want Europe to be less focused on war and more focused on investing in the United States of America. And the best way to do that is to get that war to a peaceful resolution. We're going to keep on working on it. I've been disappointed in the past where I thought we were close to a peace deal, so I'm not going to predict that anything is going to happen in the next couple of weeks. But I know under the president's leadership, we've made great progress, and we're going to keep on making progress so we can stop the killing and get back to actually building things all over the world, as opposed to people killing each other and tearing things down.
Overall, we are waiting to see how the negotiations turn out. Friends, be sure to share your predictions about the negotiations in the comments. Do you think the war can be ended in the near future? And that's all from me. So please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell to stay updated on all the latest news. Thank you for watching, and see you next time. Bye bye.